All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. So once again, welcome to Microdesk Bluebeam Revu Takeoff and Estimation webinar. My name is Jasenia. I'm the event coordinator here at Microdesk. Again, for those of you that just hopped on, I do want to apologize if there is any background noise. Like probably most of you, I am working from home, so I do apologize. But before we get started, just a little housekeeping. If you have any questions during the presentation, please be sure that you're typing them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel, not in the chat panel. We'll likely take questions at the end of the webinar, but we might be able to take some questions during the webinar. Also, a recorded version of this webinar will be available on our website and YouTube channel within a couple days. You'll be receiving an email with a link once that's available. And before we jump into the webinar, I just want to introduce Microdesk to you all. So Microdesk was founded in 1994 as an Autodesk reseller with a simple mission to assist architecture, engineering, construction owners, and GIS firms with improving workflows and integrating project delivery technologies. 25 years later, and that mission still holds true. Microdesk is a well-established AECO consulting firm with 13 offices in the US and UK. We have over 230 AECO consultants, solution specialists, and software developers that can help in all sectors, all disciplines, and at all stages. So some of the hottest topics in the AECO world are globalization, urbanization, and sustainability. Urbanization studies suggest that the U.S. will add 114 cities the size of Boston in the next 30 years. Here at Microdesk, we can help to make sure you're prepared to meet those demands. We use software from industry leaders and combine it with our vision and passion for sustainability to meet the demands of urbanization. Our team of industry expert consultants are redefining project delivery and asset management. We're committed to helping clients realize the business benefits of BIM quickly and economically by facilitating the use of innovative technologies and processes. Whether it's streamlining your design, construction, or operations, our consulting team is the nation's largest and most experienced groups of AECO technology consulting professionals. To help support the industry with these demands of urbanization, we provide full-service consulting. This includes building information modeling services, technology management, mentoring and support, application development, and much, much more. We partner with world leaders such as Autodesk and IBM to utilize innovative technologies and methodologies to empower sustainable design and overcome local challenges. Our vision is to reduce the environmental impact of urbanization by helping the AECO industry to design, construct, and operate better projects more efficiently by leveraging the full potential of BIM, VDC, and asset management. Now, Mike Gonzalez will jump on to take you through today's webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, so I am Mike Gonzalez. I have 8 years of AECO experience. Graduated from Rutgers University in 2007. And yeah, as you can see, Civil 3D, InfoWorks, AutoCAD, Bluebeam. Those are kind of my go-tos. And yeah. So today's webinar is going to be focused on the Bluebeam 2019. We're going to go into the measurement tools and kind of creating a kind of how you could do takeoffs automatically through the program in a very organized and efficient manner. All right, so we're going to go over the markup tools themselves, how you kind of calibrate the scale of the drawing of the PDFs and these viewport overrides that you can do. We're going to make some count markups, custom. We're going to make some custom columns. I'm going to show you guys the visual search function, as well as organizing a material quantity takeoff within Bluebeam itself in the markups list. And then I'll show you guys one function that's all these other functions are available in Revu Standard as well as Revu CAD. But there's one that's only available in Revu Extreme, and that's the quantity link that allows us to link to specific cells in an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so let's get right to it. So I'm just going to use the out-of-the-box profile for Bluebeam. You can always customize a profile going into the review pull down under profiles, and you can choose all different ones. I'm just going to go with the out-of-the-box one so that everyone is kind of on the same page here. Right. And within those profiles, you can have what's called a tool chest. Right. So we can make various different tools. Right. I'm going to go ahead and make a new tool chest for this course, right, for this demonstration. And then I'm also going to go over what is in your markups list. Okay. And now the markups list, right, all the columns that you create, that gets saved in your Bluebeam profile that you're going to be using, right? So it doesn't get saved necessarily in the PDF, it gets saved in your profile, right? Same thing with the tool sets, those get saved. You can attach them to your profile as well, or you can load them up independently. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to discuss is the scale of your PDF. Right, so there's a couple different ways to set it. A neat thing about 2019 is that if it's not already set, you can see that in the lower right-hand corner over here. If it's not already set, the moment you create a measurement markup, it's going to prompt you to calibrate the scale of your PDF page. Right? So you can see if I go to different sheets, they might have different scales on them. And that was me lowering my markups list. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is in our markups list, we're going to want to create a bunch of measurements that we can sort and then quantify and then create a numerical, like a currency value for them, right? So we can see how much it cost to fill in these spaces, right? So the first thing I want to do, of course, is to show you how to calibrate the page. Right now, this PDF itself does not have a written scale on it, so we're going to have to make an assumption here, and I'm just going to assume that the doorway width is 3 feet. Right. So I can either click in the lower right-hand corner to change the scale, or I can go to my measurements panel, and I could choose to calibrate the scale. Now, this probably makes a little bit more sense because you have more options here. Right. So I can apply to the entire page range, as you can see in the pane here, the panel. I'm going to choose to just set this to the current page. So it's going to be page 3. And then I can choose my precision. Right. So maybe I want it to be to every ½ inch, quarter inch, really depends on what you're trying to do. Right. And you can either type in, 1 inch equals 8 feet, for example, or you can calibrate it, right, by clicking between 2 points, and the program is going to measure what that is, and then you can decide not only what it's supposed to be, right? So we can scale the PDF that way, but you can also choose what your default units are, right? So I'm going to calibrate. I'm going to select 2 points that have a known dimension. So in this case, I'm just going to choose a doorway. So from this point to this point, notice that I'm snapping, right, to specific points in my PDF. The reason I can do that is because I have my content snap on, right? What the content snap does is it allows you to snap to any vector objects in your PDF. So if this was printed from a CAD program, like let's say AutoCAD or Revit, right, that would be a vector object. If it was a scanned in image that was converted to a PDF, that would be a raster PDF, and you can't really snap to a raster PDF, right? You just have to guess. So the vector PDF snapping allows you to be far more accurate. Right, so it measured what that was in inches, right? So that's 0.3 whatever inches. And I'm assuming that this is 3 feet, 0 inches, right? So that's what I'm going to scale it out. I could either do decimal feet, right? I could just do it in inches or feet, inches, right? So let's do feet, inches, and it'll be precise to a 1/4 inch, right? I'll be applying that scale to this page, right? So that once I do a measurement, right, snap from here to here, you'll see it measures it at 3 feet. Right. In my markups list, you see that there is a subject called length measurement, right? It tells you what page it's on. The comment tells you the measurement, who the author is, that's me. And then you have all these other options here, right? So this tells you the length. This area is blank because it's not an area measurement. It tells you the color and the date, right? There's other things we could do. We could apply this to a layer, but we're not going to get into that right now. What I want to do is I want to select this guy right here, right? Because we have a bunch of different options. Now, if you look at the top of your screen, right, we have these different properties. You can also go to the properties pane on the left side over here. That's the little gear where you can input a bunch of different properties. And this is true for all markups, not just your measurements. So just for today's example, I'm going to do 2 examples. I'm not going to do the length because it's a little bit simple. I'm going to do areas and I'm going to do counts. Okay. So what we're going to want is we're going to want to, let's say, assign, let's say, some flooring to some of these offices, and we're going to want to count the fixtures that are in, let's say, the bathrooms, right? Just as an example of what you can do, and then we could tally them up and assign values for them, so we can automatically tally up as we go how much things cost. Now, you can make this as complicated as you want. It really kind of depends on what you're trying to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an area measurement here, right? It's going to measure this office 239, and we're going to make it appear the way I want it to. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to go under measurements. Now I could also go under tools, measure, area. Same thing as doing it over here. The scale has already been calibrated for the page, so we are set. I'm going to snap to this corner. I like to click all my vertices as opposed to just kind of dragging, and I press enter when I'm done. Right. So that has measured 97 square feet. Right. And that's great. However, it's not really giving me any definition the way I want it to, or looking the way I want to differentiate it, right? So I'm going to select the markup I just made so that I can make a custom repeatable markup, right, that measures area. So to do that, again, I can either have the pull-down menu or I can go into my properties. Right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the subject. All right, so I know that I'm going to make this space markup be for carpet. Okay. And let's say, for example, I want this color, right, of the outside. Maybe I do want that to stay red, but I want there to be a fill color. It'll make it yellow, highlight it, so that if it's a highlight, you can see through it, right? I could choose what it shows, right? So I could show the caption, I can show the label, and the area. So the label I can assign up here, right? So this is, maybe I want to assign this to be a material number, right? So it would be maybe 201.1 if I wanted to assign, okay, that's the number of the material, right? So that shows up there, right? And then the more information you could put in your particular markup, the better, because there's more information in your markups list. So I can make a bunch of different carpets, right? And they'll all show up under the subject carpet, even though they'll have different labels and they'll be different things. So the next thing, I'm going to make another one as well, right? So I'm going to make another area measurement. And I'm going to go in this area over here just to make it nice and simple. Right. But this time, I'm going to select this markup, and I'm going to make it look a little different, right? So I'm going to give it a hatch. Right. Maybe this weave hatch, change the color of it to green. Oh, that's obnoxious. Go with blue. Also obnoxious, but that's okay. Right. Then you can change the color of the text. I mean, so you can really customize these however you'd like. Right. Again, I will change the subject to be under carpet again. Now, notice that it is case sensitive. Right. And maybe this is 201.2, right? Because this is a patterned carpet. Now, to get these markups to be repeatable, let's go ahead and make a new tool chest that will contain these. Right? So I can make a tool chest, manage tool sets. I don't know why they don't call it manage tool chests, but there it is. I'm going to add a new one. Right? And this is my, I'm just going to call them demo takeoffs. Right? And it's going to save in your data, and it creates a BTX file, which you can assign to your profile, and you can have it show or not show, right? So here it's showing for us, right? You can import it, export it, whatever you need to do to reuse it. So you can make the entire tool chest, export it out, and then your users can import it and then use all the tools available with all the preset settings. Right? So I haven't added anything to it yet, because there's a couple more things I want to specifically add to these markups to make them repeatable and useful for me. Right? So to that end, I want to create a couple new columns, right, that will demonstrate that. So I can like make a choice. This markup is specifically for a solid carpet, whereas this markup is specifically for a patterned carpet, right? And they might have different prices, right? So let me go into my markups list here, and I'm going to show you how to make a custom column. And in this example, I'm going to manage my columns here. I'm going to make a custom column by going to the Manage Columns, Custom Column, and I'm going to add a custom column. Now you can add a variety of different types of custom columns. In this example, I'm going to make a choice. All right, and this is the type of flooring. All right, so the flooring, and it's a choice. So I'm going to add the items. What are my choices here? All right. So, and each item has to be unique. So if you assign it the subject, right, carpet, right, it will only be allowed to, you can only assign it a specific item if the subject matches, right? So I can't have something that's a different subject and assign it the same item that's under the flooring choice, right? So here I will choose solid, right? So it's a solid carpet. And I'm going to assign it a numeric value. Right. So maybe per square foot of carpet, a solid carpet would be. And again, I don't know at all how much by square footage. So I'm going to say, let's say it's $5.93 per square foot. And then I'm going to add another choice. Right. So again, it's the same subject. It's carpet. Right. But this time I'm making a patterned carpet. And we're going to assign that a value that's slightly higher because patterns are fancy. Let's say $6.28 per square foot. Again, maybe these values don't make any sense, but they're just values. Okay, so I can say okay to that, right? And now what I want to do is I want to add another column, right? That's going to actually give me a numeric value. So it's going to multiply the area times the value defined by the choice. Right. So I'm going to add a new column, right? And this one's going to be a formula, right? So this is going to be flooring cost estimate. Okay, and notice that there's no pull down, but the moment you start typing something, right? So if I chose F, I can choose flooring, right? Because it's going to choose from that subject type. Double click there. I'm going to choose to multiply that by the area, right? Because these are all the different things you can, the different functions and variables you can choose, right? So this is going to choose the area measurement of the flooring choice. I can choose to have that in currency, right, in 2 decimal places. Okay. So now, notice we have flooring and flooring cost estimate available to us in our markups list. Right now, I haven't assigned these to be either, so I can select this guy right here, right? And either in the properties panel, I could scroll down, and because it has the same subject as the flooring column, the choice that I created under my flooring column, right? I can select either solid or pattern, or I could do that here. Right? So I'm going to select solid in my properties for this one, and notice that it chose so it shows you the per value, right? And then it's showing you the total cost by the area, right? So 97 times 5.93, right? Gives you that. I can do the same by selecting my patterned, and I can choose pattern, right? And that way it's going to automatically assign it there, right? So we have differentiating in type of flooring, right? But notice that we have a running total for carpet as the subject, right? Because it kind of keeps it all under one header. So you could do different types, right? So, if you're doing, hardwood, tile, right? So those could all be different subjects, still using the flooring choice. You just give them different items and subjects, right? So you can just kind of build it out as much as you need to. And you can do that with lengths, walls, all different sorts of ideas, right? So the way I can make this repeatable, right, is that if I go to my tool chest, right, and I made a new one, right? So this has all the properties I want. It looks like how I want, right? It's displaying how I want. This is showing me, this is the material number, right? So solid carpets are material number 201.1, right? Whereas pattern carpets are 201.2, for example. And if you have a whole list, you can, make them match up however you want, right? So I can select my markup that is now all set up how I want it to be. I can right-click on it and I can add it to a tool chest. So for this example, demo takeoffs, right? And I'm going to do the same thing. I'll press escape, do the same thing with this guy right here. Add the tool chest, demo takeoffs. Right now, if I click on them, they're going to make the exact same thing. I'd have to right-click and change it from there to there, right? Choose properties mode, and that way, it'll just maintain all the same properties, but I can just click, right? And have it fill in, right? So for example, if this Office 237, I also wanted to have the same carpeting as the office right next to it, seems only fair. Right. So it's all the same properties. Notice that it's down here, right? Patterned, right? And it still just tallies it up as we go. So you can just start filling in all the different rooms how you want, right? All your different spaces, however you need to, right? With different flooring types, and it really takes a little bit of setup, but the accuracy you get by snapping and filling it in this way is really useful. Notice that we have some weird curves over here that might be a bit frustrating, right? To just kind of make the curves and all these weird angles and things like that. So one thing I want to show you is the dynamic fill function. Okay, so if I go into my measurements tab, this button all the way over here called dynamic fill, that's going to allow us to choose oddly shaped areas that we can define using a particular markup. Right. So again, we're already calibrated, so I'm going to click on dynamic fill, and I get this nice little toolbar. Right. So I can define in two ways. I can add a boundary, which I'm going to need to. Right. So let's say over here, right, I want to close this doorway. Right. So I can add a boundary by selecting this icon on the left. And again, I'll snap to this corner and close it off over here. Press enter, and that way it'll close it off. I can also change the boundary sizes, right? That was a little bit big, right? So maybe I'll go ahead and I can remove that, and I can redefine it just by clicking, right? Right. So you can change the different sizes and widths of things, right? So the next thing I'm going to want to do is define the space by filling it in, right? And this is kind of the neat part. And maybe I'll change my fill size to maybe a little bit smaller. Right. So notice that it got in all the little nooks and crannies, right? Without me having to click a bunch of times, make a bunch of weird curves and things like that. And then what I could do is I have the area measurements, right? And I can go to any one of my tool chests and choose what I want it to be. So I want this to be a solid carpet. So I can see the label, right? 201.1, that's the solid carpet. So I'm going to assign that here, and I can just apply it, right? And see how it just got me my area, right? And it added it. It added it to my running tally of carpet, right? Because again, it's all the same subject. Okay. One other thing I want to show you in regarding to dynamic fill, because you could do it with a variety of different lengths. So if I did a fill and just wanted to measure the outer length, I would use a poly length, right, measurement, and it would give me the outside measurement. So it's really just kind of a bunch of different options. One thing I want to do, especially because we're going to be using the count measurement, so I want to be able to differentiate which toilets and sinks are in the women's room versus the men's room, right? Without having to do a different layer to display them. I'm going to use what's called a space, right? So I'm going to create a space, right? And I'll call this the men's room, right? And I'm going to fill in this area, right? So I'm going to give it a boundary from here to here, right? Now fill in the men's room. And you can just kind of hold it down and notice it stops over here and over here. So I'm going to fill that in, fill this in, and then scroll over here and just kind of fill this in as well. Right, so you can just kind of paint the area you want it to fill. Right, so anywhere that's enclosed, you will fill it. So maybe this closet too. Right. So everything inside of here is in the men's room. Right. So I'm going to make it a space. Yeah. Apply that. Got to check it on. I'm going to uncheck the area measure by declicking it because I don't necessarily want to measure that area just for the time being. I could if I had a different flooring type that I wanted to apply. But right now I only want to apply a space, and it's going to be the men's room. So I'm going to apply, and it's going to create a space. Notice that it's a different color. All right. I'm going to do the same thing over here in the women's room. All right. But I'm going to change the color. Maybe make that that whatever color that was. Same thing. I will apply a boundary to the door. Okay, and then I'll just fill in over there and over here too. Okay. All right. So it's set to create a women's room space. Right. It's checked on, and I can apply. Right. So it created women's room. There's the men's room. All right. So that's how the dynamic fill works. You're going to choose a different measurement type markup, define the space by filling it in, closing off the boundary, and creating the markup or space that you wish to define. Right. Very useful, especially if you have a bunch of weird angles or curves, right, that you don't want to manually input. Right. So I've done that. I can close. Right. Right. So we're starting to build this thing up nicely. Right. Right. These aren't in either of the spaces, so they're not assigned to it. So let's go ahead and do what I was mentioning, and that's counting the different toilets and sinks. Right. So I'm going to create what's called a count markup, and now I'm just going to do it quickly using the default count markup, and then I'm going to change its properties. However, you can always either draw in your own markups, let's say like a line or something like that, or you can bring in a little image if you want and use that. So, for example, if I chose an image, right, just place that there, just that little guy, right? I can actually use this when I can actually apply it and use it as a count. Right? Right, so once I create more counts, I can show you how to do that. Right, so yeah, so let's say, for example, this count measurement, right? I'm going to remove this for the time being. This count measurement, right? So it's a count. I'm going to go into my properties here. Right. And this time, I'm going to make my subject for these different counts a fixture. And I'm going to do the same thing with, I'm going to make new columns, right? So I'm going to call this fixtures. And then let's say the number is 202.1 for toilets. And then I'll make the other one 202.2 for sinks. Right, so I need to make the columns first so I can assign values. Right, so again, I'm going to go to markups, list, manage columns. I'm going to make a couple new columns. Right, so this one will be fixtures as opposed to flooring. Right, I'm going to again make it a choice. And I'm going to add the item being toilets under the subject, right, fixtures. Right. Oh, and I forgot to assign it a number. Right. So each toilet, for example, let's say it costs $125.75. Again, no idea if that's a reasonable number. And then I'm going to add another one. Right. So this one will be sinks. Right. So this again will be under the fixtures subject. So it's all just kind of fine. Again, I keep on forgetting to assign the value. There it is, 78.68. Right. So I've added those two right there. So fixtures is the name of my choice. Right. So I could add another column. Right. Fixtures cost estimate. Right. And it's a formula again. Right. Right. So it'll be under fixtures instead of flooring. Right. Multiply it by the count. Right. Because we're doing per unit. Right. We do currency, keep the decimal places at 2. Cool. Include it in the totals. Okay. So then I can go choose this count. I can change what it is, or I can choose whichever count type I want to use, right? So again, if I brought in an image, just right, place that right there, right? Right. If I change the subject to fixtures, right? Maybe this one. Right. Notice that because I changed the subject to fixtures, I can't choose the flooring because that would require the subject carpet, right? So let's say this one is for toilets, right? Right. And I could change the color if it was just a regular one, right? But this, since it's an image, that's what it's going to be. Right. Let's see, and I could add this as a count. Right. There it is. I have to add it to my tool chest, and then I can create a count. Right. So I can remove the original image, and here I have a count measurement that's ready to go. So I can delete this. Right. And I can further assign properties if I wanted to this count measurement. Right. right? So now it's a different one, right? So I got to rechange it. So I'm going to go back to fixtures, right, and reassign its toilets, right? So just FYI, if you create a count, right, and you click one and then you realize, oh, I've only clicked one and I want to continue, right? I could resume the count and keep on clicking, right? So I'm going to go ahead and change the label so that it's the material number. So it's 202.1. All right, and I wanted to change this one to 202.2 so I can assign it to be a sync, right? So this is 202.2, this is 202.1. So I'm going to add this to my tool chest, right? I'm going to remove this one again, delete it from there, and we're going to, now that I changed the properties of it, I'm going to add it back to my tool chest, right? So I'm going to delete this for now, and delete this one for now, right? And so what I'm going to do is, I want to automatically search in my PDF for all toilets on this particular page, right? So to do that, I can go to my search, right? And there's two things you could do. You could do a text search or a visual search. And I'm going to show you the visual search here because it's pretty neat. So I'm going to choose the current page, right? You can do the entire document if you want, but I'm just going to go for the current page here. Now I'm going to choose Get Rectangle in my visual search. I'm going to zoom up over here. Right. And I'm going to find that, right? So it's pretty good at knowing that it could be in any direction, right? Any color, right? So you can change the sensitivity and search for multiple rotations. So it could be looking in different directions, right? So lots of different things you could do. So I could search, right? So notice that down here, it's searching this particular page, right? Again, I could have gone to the entire document and see how it's going down there, right? So I can choose all of those instances, because if I click on one, it's going to go find it, right? So I'm going to choose all of those instances, and I'm going to apply by choosing that little lightning bolt with a down arrow. I'm going to choose this 202.1 because I know that is my toilets. Right? And I applied a count measurement for all of those. So if I scroll down here, right? Right. Notice that it found 6 total, but now it's split it up, right? So we have fixtures here, right? Because it knows that these 4 are in the women's room and these 2 are in the men's room, right? So it was able to differentiate that while still keeping the running tally because it's still all under the fixtures subject, right? Again, I could do the same thing, but this time I want to do it with sinks. Right, so hopefully you'll find it even with that line through it, right? Okay, so I found a few sinks, right? See how they're rotated, not having a line through them, right? So I'm going to find that, and I'm going to choose Apply. This time I'm going to use 202.2, right? And I found that one there as well. That's not in the space, right? So again, I can scroll down, right? So I found the, that's not in a particular space if you wanted to put all spaces, right? Again, it's differentiated them, right? Tells you how many there are in each one of these areas. But again, it keeps a running tally, right, for all fixtures, just as we had a running tally for all carpets. Right. So that's kind of the way you can, in your markups list, keep a running tally going. And so again, if you just assign this tool chest to one of your guys to just start marking up a PDF, so long as they calibrate it, this is available for any level of review, right? So long as you just set that up beforehand, and you can set up your profile, your tool sets, and anyone could just start marking it up, and it'll just start a running tally in your markup. So you could have a takeoffs profile, right, that has your different tool chests for different, groups, maybe, right? So you could have your mechanical group having different counts and tools. Maybe they're doing pipes, right, or ducts, and they have different markups for ducts, right? And you've just set up your different columns, right, to note that, right? So this is where you can kind of set up your markups list to just kind of make it do whatever it is that you need it to do, right? And I understand that, it can get a little bit unwieldy with all the different columns, but then if you need to organize it a bit better, again, you can always export it as a CSV summary to Excel, right? And then you can manipulate it there. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to save, right? Just so I can show you the final thing I want to go over today, and that is, let me bring this back down. All right, and that is what's called a, and this is again just for Review Extreme, so not everyone might have this, right? All right, so let's say I have material number 201.1. That's the carpet solid. 202.2. That's the pattern, right? So I can actually assign different columns, right? So different measurements from the PDF itself, right? So I can assign a quantity link rather. I'm going to create one. So it's looking for the right. So let's say I go for area of carpets, right? And specifically for solids, right? So I can break it down that way, right? Because I already I had already linked this this Excel spreadsheet. So when you first click on it and choose create, it's going to ask you to find the PDF, which I already assigned, right? So this is going to be the value of the area, right, of the carpets that are solid, right? So that's the total running value, right? As we can see here, right? So all the 201.1, right? So we have two of them, right? We have 97 plus 101, right? Oh, you know what? I think it might be going to another one. Let's go with source files. It was going to my, so I'm going to remove that. Okay. Yeah. Go to my current one. Okay, there it is. Right. Okay. Let me delete that. Delete that. Okay. I'm going to create. There we go. So now I've chose my current PDF, right? Subject is carpet, and the label is 201.1, right? So this is the area value, right, of the carpets in that file, right? So great. that actually adds up. I'm going to do the same thing, right? The area of subject carpet, label to 1.2. So that's giving me the area, right? Then I can do similar over here, create, right, for fixtures, right? So this time I'm going to do count of subject fixtures, right? Label to a 2.1, right? That's the toilets, right? Count subject fixtures, label to a 2.2, right? Right, and then you can kind of create your spreadsheets as fill it out as you go. Note, however, that it is actually live to my PDF. So if I go ahead, right, and I do another, let's say another dynamic fill here, right? Close this off. Right, and I fill in this office, right? I'm going to uncheck space, and I'm going to choose to check on area measurement, and I'm going to do this as a I'll do that as another solid. Right? I could apply that. Right? It added that, so now we should see that updated, right? It used to be 100 something, now it's 200 something, right? So it updates automatically so long as it's linked to your current PDF. Close that. Right. One last thing we could do that I'm just going to show you here is I'm going to create a live legend. Right. I'm going to create a new legend. Right. And actually, I could do that from the tool chests. Right. So for every tool that's in my tool chest, I can create a legend, and it's going to show me. Right. So from this demo takeoffs, right, maybe you have a particular tool chest that you want to use, right? And so each give a little preview of what it is, right? The description, the quantity, and the unit, right? And it's live, right? So it's not just, so again, if I fill in another office space here, right? Let's say with the pattern carpet, right? So right now it is 193.79. Right? It adds it up, right? Again, it's tallying it up in my markups list, right? And it added it to my legend, right? And it added it to my Excel spreadsheet, right? So if you find that maybe doing your markups in here and then exporting it out and reorganizing it, and then because once you export it out, it's kind of just once, it doesn't update automatically. So if you have people going back and forth, then maybe you find that the quantity link is really helpful if you're making constant updates to your materials list, right? Right, so this is just an example of a workflow you can do to keep track of all of your markups and keep track of all your quantities, and then multiply them by the unit cost as defined in your choice. All right. There's a case study performed about this from Bluebeam that we're going to show you guys just to kind of emphasize the value that Bluebeam can bring. Right. So let me go ahead and show this to you guys. All right, just 3 minutes.
Mike, I don't think the sound is working.
Ooh. No one can hear it? Okay. All right. If no one could hear it, then I guess it wasn't worthwhile. But basically, just by it being so accurate, and keeping track, it's you don't lose track of things. And they found a $50,000 mistake right off the bat, and it saved them a bunch of time. Is essentially what was going on there. But yeah, I guess we're kind of running out of time here. So if we got any questions.
We are running pretty low on time, so I think that we can only get to one question right now. But folks,
Sure.
We do save our questions, so we can follow up with you all. But Rose asked, is there a way that you could show the fixture type in your legend?
The fixture type. Oh, so yes. That's because so it's in the description. So I think there's different ways that we can set our properties of the legend. Now you can go ahead and do different things. Right. So we can either add different columns, right? So I can show what page it is. So instead of, so I can choose, let's see. So right now it's just the subject, right? But there's different things we can add. Right, let me just see the layout. So you can like edit the columns, right? So choose which ones you want to show, right? So you can add a bunch of different, right? So right now we just have description, right? So maybe we want to do also, if you had them on different layers, right? So I was going to throw in a bunch of them just to kind of see. But yeah, I mean, so it takes a little bit of playing around and how you organize, maybe you do a different subject for each type, depends on what you're trying to do. But you can edit the columns for sure to show the different, what's actually shown there. Right, so if I chose the different flooring or fixtures, right, that's going to show me whether it's pattern or solid, what choice was made, right? So you can show that column and what it is, right? And you can put like the different lines and stuff, right? Grid lines and whatever. Did that answer the question?
I believe it does. But folks,
okay.
We are all up out of time. Okay, yes. Rose said yes. Thank you.
Okay.
So any other questions that we have, we will reach out to you. But it doesn't seem, we did have one question by Philip. My company prefers that we do our takeoffs by room rather than materials. Are setting spaces on the drawings the best way to do this? Mike, is that something you think you can answer quickly, or do you prefer to just reach out to Philip?
Oh, Spaces is a great tool. Now, if that's how you want to organize this by room, Spaces is a fantastic way to do it. You just got to realize that you have to organize your, either if you do it in Excel or if you do a legend, right, how you want to display it. So that might take a little bit of playing around when you want to get your final, report out. But definitely everything will be assigned by space, and you can actually sort by what space they're in, which is useful.
Awesome. All right. Well, it doesn't seem like we have any more questions, actually. Bodhi, yes, the session is recorded, and it, like we mentioned at the beginning, it will be sent out through email once that is ready. Should be ready within a couple of days. But folks, thank you so much for hopping on. We hope to see you at our next Bluebeam Revu webinar. Thank you so much, Mike. And have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.